on page 512. That is on chapter 6, the King of the Golden Hall, within the book 3 of Return of the King, within the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So, written by JRR Tolkien. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and dive in right now. And I'm going to start on page 512. And we're going to see how long we can go here. I had went, believe it or not, had looked at a little opportunity. They have a little book on The Hobbit. Yes, it was reasonably priced, believe it or not. But it wasn't the one that I wanted. I'm going to get the one I wanted, and I may give this one away to a book of Fairy Bin or whatever. And so some other lucky person will enjoy it as much as I will. Once I get my other copy. But other than that, I'm going to start on the second paragraph. The guards now lifted the heavy bars of the doors and swung them slowly inwards, rumbling on their great hinges. The travelers entered. Inside it seemed dark and warm after the clear air upon the hill. The hall was long and wide and filled with shadows and half-lights. Mighty pillars upheld its lofty roof, but here and there bright sunbeams fell in glimmering shafts from the eastern windows high under the deep eaves. Through the louvre in the roof, above the thin wisp of issuing smoke, the sky showed pale and blue. As their eyes changed, the travelers perceived that the floor was paved with stones of many hues. Branching rings and strange devices intertwined beneath their feet. They saw now that the pillars were richly carved, gleaming dully with gold and half-seen colors. Many woven cloths were hung upon the walls, and over their wide spaces marched figures of ancient legend, some dim with years, some darkly in the shade. But upon one form the sunlight fell, the young man upon a white horse. He was blowing a great horn, and his yellow hair was flying in the wind. The horse's head was lifted, and its nostrils were wide and red as it neighed, smelling battle afar. Foaming water, green and white, rushed and curled about its knees. "Behold the young," said Aragorn. Thus he rode out of the north to the battle of the field of Celebrant. Now the four companions went forward, past the clear wood fire, burning upon the long hearth in the midst of the hall. Then they halted. At the far end of the house, beyond the hearth and facing north, towards the doors, was a dais with 3 steps, and in the middle of the dais was a great gilded chair. Upon it sat a man, so bent with age that he seemed almost a dwarf. But his white hair was long and thick and fell in great braids from beneath A thin golden circlet set upon his brow, and the sunshine upon his forehead shone a single white diamond. His beard was laid like snow upon his knees, but his eyes still burnt with a bright light, glinting as he gazed at the strangers. Behind his chair stood a woman clad in white. At his feet, upon the steps, sat a wizened figure of a man with a pale, wise face and heavy lidded eyes. There was a silence. The old man did not move in his chair. At length Gandalf spoke. Hail, Theoden, son of Dingle. I have returned. For behold, uh, the signs and the old man did not move in his chair, and at length Gandalf spoke. Hail, Theoden, I have returned. For behold, the storm comes, and now all friends should gather together, lest each singly be destroyed. Slowly the old man rose to his feet, leaning heavily upon a short black staff with a handle of white bone. And now the stranger saw that, bent though he was still tall, and must in youth have been high in pride indeed. I'll greet you, he said, and maybe you look for welcome. But in truth, to tell you, welcome is doubtful here. Master Gandalf, you have ever been a herald of woe? Troubles follow you like crows, and ever the oftener the worse. I will not deceive you. When I heard that Shadowfax had come back riderless, I rejoiced at the return of the horse, but still more at the lack of the rider. And when Ilmer brought the tidings that you had gone at last to your long home, I did not mourn. But news from afar is seldom soothed. Here you come again, and you come evils worse than before, as might be expected. Why should I welcome you, Gandalf Stormcrow? Tell me that. Slowly, he sat down again in his chair. You speak justly, Lord, said the pale man, sitting upon the steps of the day. It is not yet 5 days since the bitter tidings came that Theoden, your son, was slain upon the west marches. Your your right hand, second marshal of the Mark, in Ilmer, there is little trust. Few men would be left to guard your walls. If he had been allowed to rule, and even now we learn from Gondor that the Dark Lord is stirring in the east. Such is the hour in which is this wanderer choose to return. Why indeed should we welcome you, Master Stormcrow? Last spell I name you ill news, and ill news is an ill guest, they say. He laughed grimly as he lifted his heavy lids for a moment and gazed on the strangers with dark eyes. You are held wise, my friend, worm tongue, and are doubtless a great support to your master, answered Gandalf in a soft voice. Yet in two ways may a man come with evil tidings. He may be a worker of evil, or he may be such as leaves well alone, and comes only to bring aid in time of need. That is so, said Worm Tongue, but there is a third kind, pickers of bones, meddlers in other men's sorrows, carrion fowl that grow fat on war. What aid have you ever brought, Storm Crow? And what aid do you bring now? It was aid from us that you sought last time that you were here. And my lord bade you choose any horse that you would and be gone. And to the wonder of all, you took Shadowfax and your insolence. My lord was sorely grieved, yet to some it seemed that to speed you from the land the price was not too great. I guess that it is likely to turn out the same once more. You will seek aid rather than render it. Do you bring men? Do you bring horses, swords, spears? That I would call aid? That is our present need. But who are these that follow at your tail? 3 ragged wanderers in gray, and you yourself the most beggar-like of the 4? The courtesy of your hall is somewhat lessened of late, Ewan, son of Dingle, said Gandalf. Has not the messenger from your gate reported the names of my companions? Seldom has any Lord of Rohan received 3 such guests. Weapons they have laid at your doors that are worth many a mortal man, even the mightiest. Gray is their raiment, for the elves clad them, and thus they have passed through the shadow of great perils to your hall. Then it is true, as Eomer reported, that you are in league with the sorcerers of the Golden Wood, said Wormtongue. It is not to be wondered at. Webs of the sea were ever woven in Dwimwardine. Gimli strode a pace forward, but felt suddenly the hand of Gandalf clutch him by the shoulder, and he halted, standing stiff as stone. And Demorine and Lorien seldom have walked the feet of men. Few mortal eyes have seen the light that lies there ever long and bright. Galadriel, Galadriel, clear is the water of your well. White is the star in your white hand. Unmarred, unstained is leaf and land. And Dwimwardine and Lorien more fair than dots of mortal men. Thus, Gandalf softly sang, and then suddenly he changed. Casting his tattered cloak aside, he stood up and leaned no longer on his staff, and he spoke in a clear, cold voice. The wise speak only what they know. Grima, son of Galmod, a witness where you have you become. Therefore, be silent and keep your forked tongue behind your teeth. I have not passed through fire and death to bandy crooked words with a servant man till the lightning falls. He raised the staff. There was a roll of thunder. The sunlight was blotted out from the eastern windows. The whole hall became suddenly dark as night. The fire faded to sudden embers. Only Gandalf could be seen, standing white and tall before the blackened hearth. In the gloom, they heard the hiss of Wormtongue's voice. Did I not counsel you, Lord, to forbid his staff? That fool Hama has betrayed us. There was a flash as if lightning had cloven the roof. Then all was silent. Wormtongue sprawled on his face. Now, Theoden, son of Dingle, will you hearken to me? Said Gandalf. Do you ask for help? He lifted his staff and pointed to a high window. There the darkness seemed to clear, and through the Lord of the Mark, for better help you will not find. No counsel have I to give those that despair, yet counsel I could give, and words I could speak to you. Will you hear them? They are not for all ears. I bid you come out before your doors and look abroad. Too long have you sat in shadows and trusted to twisted tales and crooked promptings. Slowly, Theoden left his chair. A faint light grew in the hall again. The woman hastened to the king's side, taking his arm, and with faltering steps, the old man came down from the dais and paced softly through the hall. Wormtongue remained lying on the floor. They came to the doors, and Gandalf knocked. Open, he cried. The Lord of the Mark has comes forth. The doors rolled back, and keen air came whistling in. A wind was blowing on the hill. Send your guards down to the stairs' foot, said Gandalf, and you, lady, leave a while with me. I will care for him. Go, Eowyn, sister-daughter, said the old king. The time for fear is past. The woman turned and went slowly into the house. As she passed the doors, she turned and looked back. Brave and thoughtful was her glance as she looked on the king with a cool pity in her eyes. Very fair was her face, and her long hair was like a river of gold. Slender and tall she was in her white robe girt with silver, but strong she seemed, and stern as steel, a daughter of kings. Thus Aragorn, for the first time in the light of day, beheld Eowyn, Lady of Rohan, and thought her fair, fair and cold, like a morning of pale spring that is not yet come to womanhood. And now was suddenly aware of him, tall heir of kings, wise with many winters, grace cloaked, hiding a power that yet she felt. For a moment still, as stone she stood, then turning swiftly she was gone. Now, Lord, said Gandalf, look out upon your land. Breathe the free air again. From the porch upon the top of the high terrace they could see, beyond the stream, the green fields of Rohan, fading into distant gray. Curtains of wind-blown rain were slanting down. The sky above and to the west was still dark with thunder, and lightning far away flickered among the tops of hidden hills, but the But the wind had shifted to the north, and already the storm that had come out of the east was receding, rolling away southward to the sea. Suddenly, through a rent in the clouds, behind them a shaft of sun stabbed down. The falling showers gleamed like silver, and far away the river glittered like a glimmering glass. It is not so dark here, said Theoden. No, said Gandalf, nor does age lie so heavily on your shoulders as some would have you think. Cast aside your prop. From the king's hand, the black staff fell clattering on the stones. He drew himself up slowly, as a man that is stiff from long bending over some dull toil. Now tall and straight he stood, and his eyes were blue as he looked into the opening sky. Dark have been my dreams of late, he said, but I feel as one new awakened. I would now that you had come before, Gandalf, for I fear that already you have come too late, only to see the last days of my house. Not long now shall stand the high hall where Brago's son of Errol built. Fire shall devour the high seat. What is to be done? Much, said Gandalf. But first, send for Eomer. Do not guess rightly that you hold him prisoner by the counsel of Grima, of him that all save you name the worm tongue. It is true, said Theoden. He had rebelled against my commands and threatened death to Grima in my hall. A man may love you and yet not love Wormtongue or his counsels, said Gandalf. That may be, but I will do as you ask. Call Hama to me, since he proved untrustworthy as a door ward. Tell him become an errand runner. The guilty shall bring the guilty to judgment, said Theoden, and his voice was grim. Yet he looked at Gandalf and smiled, and as he did so, many lines of care were smoothed away and did not return. When Hama had been summoned and had gone, Gandalf led Theoden to a stone seat and then sat himself before the king upon the topmost stair. Aragorn and his companions stood nearby. There is no time to tell all that you should hear, said Gandalf. Yet, if my hope is not cheated, a time will come to ere long when I can speak more fully. Behold, you are come into a peril greater, even than the wit of Wormtongue could weave into your dreams. But see, you dream no longer, you live. Gondor and Rohan do not stand alone. The enemy is strong beyond our reckoning, yet we have a hope at which he has not guessed. Quickly now, Gandalf spoke. His voice was low and secret, and none save the king heard what he said. But ever as he spoke, the light shone brighter in Theoden's eye, and at the last he rose from the seat to his full height, and Gandalf beside him, and together they looked out from the high place towards the east. Verily, said Gandalf, now in a loud voice, keen and clear, that way lies our hope, where sits our greatest fear. Doom hangs still on a thread, yet hope there is still. If we can but stand unconquered for a little while. The others, too, now turned their eyes eastward, over the sundering gleams of land. Far away they gazed to the edge of sight, and hope and fear bore their thoughts still on, beyond dark mountains to the land of shadow, where now was the ring bearer. How thin indeed was the thread upon which doom still hung! It seemed to Legolas as he strained his far-seeing eyes that he caught a glint of white. Far away, perchance the sun twinkled on a pinnacle of the Tower of Guard, and further still, endlessly remote and yet a present threat, there was a tiny tongue of flame. Slowly, Theoden sat down again, as if weariness still struggled to master him against the will of Gandalf. He turned and looked at his great house. Alas, he said, well, these evil days should be mine, and should come in my old age instead of that peace which I have earned. Alas for Boromir, the brave, the young perish, and the old linger, withering. He clutched his knees with his wrinkled hands. Your fingers would remember their old strength better if they grasped a sword hilt, said Gandalf. Theoden rose and put his hand to his side, but no sword hung at his belt. Where has Grima stowed it? He muttered under his breath. Take this, dear lord, said a clear voice. It was ever at your service. Two men had come softly up the stair, and stood now a few steps from the top. Eomer was there. No helm was at his head. No mail was on his breast, but in his hand he held a drawn sword, and as he knelt, he offered the hilt to his master. How comes this? Said Theoden sternly. He turned towards Eomer, and the men looked in wonder at him. Standing now proud and erect, where was the old man whom they had left crouching in his chair or leaning on his stick? It is my doing, Lord, said Hama, trembling. I understood that Eomer was to be set free. Such joy was in my heart that maybe I have erred. Yet since he was free again, and he a marshal of the mark, I brought him the sword, and as he bade me, to lay at your feet, my lord, said Eomer. For a moment of silence, Theoden stood looking down at Eomer as he knelt still before him. Neither moved. Will you not take the sword? Said Gandalf. Slowly, Theoden stretched forth his hand. As his fingers took the hilt, it seemed to the watchers that firmness and strength returned to his thin arm. Suddenly, he lifted the blade and swung it, shimmering and whistling in the air. Then he gave a great cry. His voice rang clear as he chanted in the tongue of Rohan a call to arms. Arise now, arise, rider Sildin. Dire deeds await. Dark is it eastward. Let horses be bridled, horn be sounded. Forth, Irolungas. The guards, thinking that they were summoned, sprang up the stair, looked at their lord in amazement, and then, as one man, they drew their swords and laid them at his feet. Command us, they said. What's to Theoden Hall? Cried Eomer. It is a joy to us to see you return into your own. Never again shall it be said, Gandalf, that you come only with grief. Take back your sword, Eomer, sister son, said the king. Go, Hama, and seek my own sword. Grima has it in his keeping. Bring him to me also. Now, Gandalf, you said that you had counsel to give if I would hear it. What is your counsel? You have yourself already taken it, answered Gandalf. To put your trust in Eomer rather than in a man of crooked mind, to cast aside regret and fear, to do the deed at hand. Every man that can ride should be sent west at once, and Eomer counseled you. We must first destroy the threat of Saruman while we have time. If we fail, we fall. If we succeed, then we will face the next task. Meanwhile, your people that are left, the women and the children and the old, should fly to the refugees that you have in the mountains. Were they not prepared against such an evil day as this? Let them take provision, but delay not, nor burden themselves with treasures, great or small. It is their lives that are at stake. This counsel seems good to me now, said Theoden. Let all my folk get ready, but you are my guests. Truly you said, Gandalf, that the courtesy of my hall is lessened. You have ridden through the night, and the morning wears away. You have had neither sleep nor food. A guest house shall be made ready. There you shall sleep. Then when you have eaten. Nay, Lord, said Aragorn. There is no rest yet for the weary. The men of Rohan must ride forth today, and we will ride with them. Axe, sword, and bow. We did not bring them to rest against your wall, Lord of the Mark, and I promised Eomer that my sword and his should be drawn together. Now indeed there is hope of victory, said Eomer. Hope, yes, said Gandalf, but Isengard is strong, and other perils draw ever near. Do not delay, Theoden. When we are gone, lead your people swiftly to the home of Dunharrow in the hills. Nay, Gandalf, said the king, you do not know your own skill in healing. It shall not be so. I myself will go to war, to fall in the front of the battle if it must be. Thus shall I sleep better. Then even the defeat of Rohan will be glorious in song, said Aragorn. The armed men that stood near clashed their weapons, crying, the Lord of the Mark will ride forth Eorlingas. But your people must not be both unarmed and shepherdless, said Gandalf. Who shall guide them and govern them in your place? I will take thought for that ere I go, answered Theoden. Here comes my counselor. At that moment, Hama came again from the hall. Behind him, cringing between two other men, came Grandmother Wormtongue. His face was very white. His eyes blinked in the sunlight. Hama knelt and presented to Theoden a long sword and a scabbard clasped with gold and set with green gems. Here, Lord, is Hiragrim, your ancient blade. He said it was found in his chest. Loth, he to render up the keys. Many other things are there which men have missed. You lie, said Wormtongue, and this sword your master himself gave into my keeping. Oh, and now requires it of you again, said Theoden. Does that displease you? Absolutely, assuredly not, Lord, said Wormtongue. I care for you, and yours as best I may. But do not weary yourself or tax too heavily your strength. Let others deal with these irksome guests. Your meat is about to be set on the board. Will you not go to it? I will, said Theoden, and let food for my guests be set on the gourds beside me. The host writes today, send the heralds forth. Let them summon all who dwell nigh, every man in strong land able to bear arms, all who have horses. Let them be ready in the saddle at the gate ere the second hour from noon. Dear Lord, cried Wormtongue, is it as I feared? This wizard has bewitched you? Are none to be left to defend the golden hall of your fathers and all your treasure? None to guard the Lord of the Mark? If this is bewitchment, said Theoden, it seems to be to me more wholesome than your whisperings. Your leechcraft, ere long, would have had me walking on all fours like a beast. No, not one shall be left, not even Grima. Grima shall ride too. Go. You have yet time to clean the rust from your sword. Mercy, Lord, whined Wormtongue, groveling on the ground. Have pity on one worn out in your service. Send me not from your side. I at least will stand by you when all others have gone. Do not send your faithful Grima away. You have my pity, said Theoden, and I do not send you from my side. Go, I go myself to war with my men. I bid you come with me and prove your faith. Wormtongue looked from face to face, and his eyes was the hunted look of a beast, seeking some gap in the ring of his enemies. He licked his lips with a long pale tongue. Such a resolve might have been expected from the lord of the house of Arrow. could old though he may be, he be, he said, but those who truly love him will spare his failing years. Yet I see that. Say also, said Gandalf, that to crooked eyes truth may wear a wry face. Indeed, my eyes were almost blind, said Theoden. Most of all I owe to you, my guest. Once again, you have come in time. I would give you a gift ere we go, at your own choosing. You have only to name aught that is mine. I reserve now only my sword. Whether I came in time or not is yet to be seen, said Gandalf. But as for your gift, Lord, I will choose one that will fit my need, swift and sure. Give me Shadowfax. He was only lent before in load, we may call it, but now I shall ride him into great hazard, setting silver against black. I would not risk anything that is not my own, and already there is a bond of love between us. You choose well, said Theoden, and I give him gladly. Yet it is a great gift. There is none like to Shadowfax. In time, one of the mighty steeds of old has returned. None such shall return again, and to you, my other guests, I will offer such things as may be found in my armory. Swords you do not need, but there are helms and coats of mail, of cunning work, gifts to my fathers out of Gondor. Choose from these ere we go, and may they serve you well. Now, men came bearing raiment of war from the king's horde, and they arrayed Aragorn and Legolas in shining mail. Helms, too, they chose, and round shields. Their bosses were overlaid with gold and set with gems green and red and white. Gandalf took no armor, and Gimli needed no coat of rings. Even if one had been found to match his stature, for there was no hauberk, and the hordes of Endors are better to make than his short corselet forced beneath the mountain in the north. Now he chose a cap of iron and leather that fitted well upon his round head, and a small shield that he took. It bore the running horse, white upon green. That is the emblem of the house of Eorl. May it keep you well, said Theoden. May it was made for me in Dingle's day, while I was still I was a boy. Gimli bowed. I am proud, Lord of the Mark, to bear your device. Indeed, sooner would I bear the horse than be born by one. I love my feet better, but maybe I shall come yet, where I can stand and fight. It may well be so, said Theoden. The king now rose, and at once Eowyn came forward, bearing wine. First to Theoden Hall, she said, we see now this cup and drink in happy hour. Health be with thee at thy going and coming. Then drank from the cup, and she then proffered it to the guests. And as she stood before Aragorn, she paused suddenly and looked upon him, and her eyes were shining as he looked down upon her fair face. He smiled, but as he took the cup, his hand met hers, and he knew that she trembled at the touch. Hail, Aragorn, son of Arathorn, she said. Hail, Lady of Rohan, he answered, but his face now was troubled, and he did not smile. When they had all drunk, the king went down the hall to the doors. There the guards awaited him, and Harold stood, and all the lords and chiefs were gathered together that remained in the doors are dwelt nearby. Behold, I go forth, and it seems to be my last writing, said Theoden. I have no child. Children was my son is slain. I named Eomer, my sister's son, to be my heir. If neither of us return, there should be a new lord as you will. But to someone I must now entrust my people that I leave behind. I rule them in my to rule them in my place. Which of you will stay? No man spoke. Is there none of you would name, and in whom do my people trust? In the house of Earl? Answered Hamon. But Eomer I cannot spare, nor would he stay, said the king, and he is the last of that house. I said not Eomer, answered Hamon, and he is not the last. There is Eowyn, daughter of Eomer, his sister. She is fearless and high-hearted. All love her. Let her be a lord to the Eonas. While we are gone. It shall be so, said Theoden. Let the heralds announce to the folk that the Lady Eowyn will lead them. Then the king sat upon a seat before his doors, and Eowyn knelt before him and received from him a sword and a fair corslet. Farewell, sister daughters, he said. Dark is the hour, but yet maybe we shall return to the Golden Hall. But in Dunharrow, the people may long defend themselves, and if the battle go ill, there will come all who escape. Speak not so, she answered. A year shall I endure for every day that passes until you return. But as she spoke, her eyes went to Aragorn stood nearby. The king who shall come again, he said, fear not west, but east does not do await us. The king now went down the stair with Gandalf beside him. The others followed. Aragorn looked back as they passed towards the gate. Alone, Eowyn stood before the doors of the house at the stairs' head. The sword was set upright before her, and her hands were laid upon the hilt. She was clad now in mail and shone like silver in the sun. Gimli walked with the ghost. His axe was on his shoulder. Mm. Well, at last, we set off, he said. Men need many words before deeds. My axe is restless in my hands, though I doubt not that these Rohirrim are fell handed when they come to it. Nonetheless, this is not the warfare that suits me. How shall I come to the battle? I wish I could walk and not hump like a sack at Gandalf's saddle bow. A safer seat than many, I guess, said Legolas. Yet doubtless Gandalf will gladly put you down on their feet. When blows begin, our Shadowfax himself. An axe is no weapon for a rider, and a dwarf is no horseman. And his orcs next would hew, not shave the scalps of men, said Gimli, hurriedly hafting his axe. At the gate they found great hosts of men, old and young, already like were like a springy wood, already in the saddle. More than 1,000 were there mustered. Their spears was like a springy wood. Loudly and joyously they shouted as Theoden came forth. Some hailed in readiness the king's horse. Snowmane, and others held the horses, and Aragorn and Legolas. Gimli stood at least frowning, when Eomer came up to him leading his horse. Hail, Gimli, glowing son, he said. I have not had time to learn gentle speech under your rod, as you promised, but shall we not put aside our quarrel? At least I will speak no evil again of the Lady of the Wood. I will forget my wrath for a while. Eowyn, son of Eamon, said Gimli, but if ever you chance to see Lady Galadriel with your eyes, then you shall acknowledge her the fairest of ladies, or our friendship will end. So be it, said Eomer. But until that time, pardon me, and in token of pardon, ride with me. I beg. Gandalf will be at the head with the Lord of the Mark. But Firefoot, my horse, will bear us both, if you will. I thank you indeed, said Gimli, greatly pleased. I will gladly go with you if Legolas, my comrade, may ride with us, beside us. It shall be so, said Eomer. Legolas upon my left, said Aragorn, on my right, and none will dare to stand before us. Where is Shadowfax? Said Gandalf, running wild over the grass. They answered, he will not let no man handle him. There he goes, way down the ford, like a shadow among the willows. Gandalf whistled and called out the horse's name and far away. He tossed his head and neighed, and turning, sped towards the host like an arrow. Were the breath of the west wind to take a body visible, even so would it appear. said Eeyore. Oh, yeah. See. Mm-hmm. As the gray horse ran up until he stood before the wizard. No, this is where the breath of the west wind to take a body visible. Even so would it appear, said Eowyn, as the great horse ran up until he stood before the wizard. Ooh, my eyes are going stupid. The gift seems already to be given, said Theoden. But hearken, here now I name my guest, Gandalf Greyhelm, wisest of counselors, most welcome of wanderers, a lord of the mark, a chieftain of the Ingolingos, while our kin shall last, and I give to him Shadowfax, Prince of Horses. I thank you, Theoden King, said Gandalf. Then suddenly he threw back his great cloak and cast aside his hat, and leapt to horseback. He wore no helm, no mail. His snowy hair flew free in the wind. His white robes shone dazzling in the sun. Behold, the White Rider, cried Aragorn, and all took up the words. Our king and the White Rider, they shouted. Forth Eorlingas. The trumpet sounded, the horses reared and neighed. Spear clashed on shield, and then the king raised his hand. And with a rush like the sudden onset of a great wind, the last host of Rohan rode thundering into the west. Far over the plain Eowyn saw the glitter of the spears as she stood still, alone before the doors of the silent house. Okay, that is the last part of the King of the Golden Hall. In chapter 6. Yep, chapter 6 of Return of the King. Book 3. So next time will be Helm's Deep. Then after that will be chapter 8, The Road to Isengard. So things are heating up, and we're gonna be seeing some a little bit more action going on. But other than that, okay, I will let you go. This is safe travels. Take care.